Hey everyone, welcome to this week's episode of Fight Chat Friday from TKD Coach Academy. This week we're going to be looking at momentum again. We're looking at the techniques and combinations that you can use to improve your momentum in the match and take control of the fight. Stay with us for this one.
Hey everybody, welcome to episode 123 of Fight Chat Friday. That one's nice and easy to roll off the tongue.
That's it.
Yeah, so last week we had a look at 5 key ways to dominate your opponent in ITF Sparring. So go check out that video if you haven't already, because it really much ties into what we're going to talk about today on how you can put particular combinations and techniques and which ones are quite effective to get a little bit of that momentum that we're speaking about to put you in the driving seat and hopefully give you a good return on the scoreboard in ITF competitive sparring.
Yeah, and I suppose just as a recap for anyone who wasn't able to catch last week's one, when we're talking about momentum, we're talking about a shift on the scoreboard. So you go from being level to being in the lead, behind to in the lead, or there's a big shift on the scoreboard. We're talking about things like improving at the same time by getting a score, improving your ring position, or maybe adding a warning. Things that make your opponent feel like they have to do something and they're up against it, and things that make you feel like, as you said, you're in the driving seat, things are going your way and the match is shifting in your favor. And we want to recognize those moments and create those moments for ourselves.
Yeah, definitely. So let's get stuck into it and have a look at some of the techniques that you're going to need to gain this momentum and put yourself in that driving seat that we're speaking about.
That's it. And the first one we look at is simple. It's the blitz. And we look at this one. Timmy Boston Red has what we'd call a sprint blitz. So he's kind of carrying forward. You can see in this case his opponent has actually given up quite a bit of space and made an exit as well. The reason that the blitz is so effective is not because of the clarity of the score necessarily, but because it usually also takes space and allows for follow-on shots. So the blitz, definitely a fairly straightforward, fairly simple and very understandable way to get into that contact and gain a little momentum.
Yeah, for sure. We have Sergey here from the World Cup last year, 2022 now.
Yeah.
But you see, the reason that both of these guys, Timothy and Sergey, are able to get momentum in terms of driving their opponent back is because first they actually create a little bit of distance away from the opponent with the front leg. You see his front leg comes back now, and then that creates a little bit of space for him to sprint into the space between him and the opponent, which gains a little bit of momentum, and then he can drive him back a little bit more. Of course, tie this in with getting the shoulders engaged to push through and also hitting down that center line. They're all good ways to drive your opponent back. As you said, if you can get them out of the ring, it also has a little bit of momentum in your favor for the next interaction that we're going to see as well.
Yeah, or even the loss of balance that we saw there. Absolutely. Yeah. Really, really, really important. So another option, changes of angle, and this maybe is a little bit unintuitive. It's not as obvious why this gives you momentum, but Richie, if you want to talk through what Juliana is trying to do here.
Yeah, so the idea of this is if you don't really have enough space to get the kick, which we'll see later, you can create some angles with some simple steps just by slipping off and coming back in at a different angle again, which just puts your opponent as if they're drowning, especially if they're not very solid at hands, and you may be. It's a good option for you to just create some space, create some angles, and just come back in again. Because a lot of people expect you to pull out and reset, but that's the opposite of what we're trying to do here to get momentum. We're looking to put our opponent really in a position where they feel that they're being overwhelmed. Yeah. And this is a great example. Just simple use of steps and angles, bit of space to pull back out to get back into the space again.
And I think one of the things that it also does as an extra bonus is you're kind of taking away the referee's incentive to come in and break up the match. So if you're scoring, you're separating and scoring again, separating, scoring again. You're not giving the referee that kind of these people are tied up, they're they've clashed, or for their safety we need to separate them. So you're able to score and score and score if you're dominating. So yeah, I think that's really, really important. A simple one. This one is probably one of the most common ways to get a big score. Follow your punches with a nice high scoring kick.
Yeah, this is one of the clips we've showed time and time again from Davide Messino from Italy. This is a great one. Again, it's very similar in terms of the entry. He uses that sprint blitz like Timothy and like Sergey. He's able to create a lot of momentum and push his opponent backwards, which does create that little bit of a gap there where he's able to then find that high kick. So he drives right through and pushes his opponent back. Again, he gets that, what we talk about, the Holy Trinity. He gets the score, he gets the ring position, and he gets the exit for his opponent. So driving seed, big time for Davide there, especially with a head kick, because a 3-point score in ITF sparring is absolutely massive.
Yeah, and I mean, by itself, a 3-point score is a momentum swing. Like, it doesn't need anything else. More often than not, we're looking at trying to get a 2-point score that's seen by 2 judges and maybe an improvement in ring position, possibly a warning. And that adds up to a good momentum swing. But anything that can potentially flip 4 scorecards is like, okay, that immediately flicks that switch in the opponent's brain where I'm in trouble, I need to do something, and then clear thoughts go out the window, silly things happen, and often you get that snowball effect from there. Mm-hmm. So next, we're just looking at that element of the warning and forcing exits.
Yeah, so again, this is similar. Like, what are techniques you're going to use? Again, we're going to look at the blitz, but again, some techniques that push your opponent back on the straight line. So the likes of the circular shots, the likes of the turning kick and things like that are not going to get that forward momentum as much as the likes of direct punches, axe kicks, even a front push kick from time to time. Anything that drives your opponent back on that straight line.
And the big thing with that is you typically have to get a way to get through your opponent's center line, because if you're pushing hard on one shoulder, they're going to spin and rotate. They're your momentum forward will just push part of their body out of the way, and they're going to spin off. You need to be able to get the person onto their heels, and that's how you're going to end up with them moving backwards. And of course, within ITF, we can't push, so it's maybe a little bit debatable what Dan Jules managed to do at the end there with the body. But the concept is definitely the right idea, that it's going to be the hands pushing through the center line of the body, opponent being pushed back onto the heels. If you're on your heels, it only takes that slightest lift of the chin and you are gone.
Yeah, we see the Romanian crowd go wild as well, which gives you a nice boost as momentum as well. We should include that as one of the momentum swings.
Yeah, it's true. If you can make the home crowd or if you can get a crowd in your favor, that definitely is felt in the ring. So as one more, we have the straight line axe kick, and not one that you'd necessarily think about. It's one shot sometimes, but it can be very effective in creating movement.
Yeah, like Colin does a great job here of pushing Antti back on the straight line maybe 2 or 3 times, runs out of space, has no option, and eventually has to kind of lean and put himself in a vulnerable position. And Colin's able to just take that space and come down with a straight line axe. Now, obviously, Colin is a guy with absolute monster legs, so it's a bit easier on that front. So not maybe applicable to everybody, but the hacks is a very common technique in the modern game in ITF sparring. So this straight line axe, north to south, is still a very, very applicable technique, especially if you're looking to create some backward momentum from your opponent.
Yeah, and I think the biggest problem in terms of defending it is that if you've got stuck in your heels, if you've dropped into your stance, the option to get right or left is kind of, taken away from you. You're already committed to your holding your ground and pushing back. And from there, it's, do you spin it, when it's lifted? Because if not, all you can do is go away. And that's where it has that big effect. If it's in the right place at the right time, the only option is to go back. And, and that's also a different way of forcing an exit potentially with a score. So just as a kind of a bonus topic here, we have the idea of re-engagement. Because there are so many times when you get into contact and there's an expectation here that we'll just bounce and we'll reset and we'll wave our front legs at each other again. So deciding that that's not going to happen, big deal.
Yeah, it's like sometimes in sparring we treat it as if it's your turn, my turn, your turn, my turn. But the best in the business, like Timothy here, he's after featuring twice now in this momentum. He's a guy who does a great job at it. He's able to recognize his opponent may be winded and after slowing down, and he just goes for the jugular straight away back in and puts more pressure on his opponent. Again, building up on the scoreboard, putting some momentum on his favor.
And even if you're watching this from the point of view of someone who's not, watching sparring as often as we are, one of the things that we'd really like you to notice is look at the body language from the opponent in red. Those steps forward tell you something. Yeah. Because if we've lost the discipline in our stance, it's usually because the brain has been switched. and the brain has been switched because the wind has been taken out, or because, you know, it's settled in that, oh my God, that was a good score. And, you know, Timothy is really, really good in general at recognizing when he has momentum and putting the foot down. Same way as another competitor in that division, Julio Carlos, was super at doing that as well, of just, you know, turning up the burners and getting that guy, you know, that extra heat on when things were going his way, so that later in the match, if things weren't going his way, he already had that cushion. So really, really important.
Big buffer. It's like very applicable to his game in particular as well, because he likes to build that score as early as possible, so then he can move around the ring and pull you in and maybe like get you to go over commit, and then he's a genius on the countering side of the game as well. So yeah, a very important thing that everybody needs at some stage. You need to be able to put momentum in your pocket if you're looking to get those scores on the board and really take some big wins against top level guys.
And that brings us to next week, where we're going to look at the other side of it, of what do you do if momentum is against you? How do you break that? How do you put a stall on it and give yourself the opportunity to come back into it? And then also, if you have it, what kind of techniques and shots and strategies will let you keep it? So that's what we're going to tackle next week.
Yeah, for sure. So definitely get involved in next week's episode. Subscribe so you don't miss it if you haven't already. And we'll catch you in the next one.
Bye now.